Hello and a warm welcome back to the Pitchside podcast. I'm your host, the HOD of the PSP. Like, share, comment on the YouTube version of this podcast and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Enable notifications to receive all the updates from these episodes of the podcast, which you can listen to on Spotify, Google Podcast, or any other platform. And of course, follow us on social media. I'm at Side PSP on Twitter, Pitchside Pod on Instagram. Join us for more on the way to our first K, and welcome to episode 124. We are half the way through knowing our final four in the Champions League. Of course, we knew two of the four in the semi-final of yesterday after PSG eliminated Bayern Munich to go through, and Porto, of course, only managed 1-0 against Chelsea to not make it a semi-final. Chelsea, of course, taking advantage from the 2-0 lead in the first leg. And let's kick off, of course, talking about PSG versus Bayern Munich, and of course, if you didn't check out the review of the game, check it out now. I thought it wasn't that. First of all, it was a great game, by the way, nothing about it. But certainly, I thought Bayern could have done more with a bit of resources, with a lack of resources. I think the biggest idea about this game, the biggest takeaway that I have from the game is Bayern were let down by not having a proper bench. Not having Goretzka on the bench despite his availability on the squad was weird enough of a decision. The fact that Lucas Hernandez started in the first place despite all the doubts about his health was pretty incredible, really, and he had an incredible game, by the way. He was one of the few great Bayern players on the right. The Bayern players were literally a little bit more better than average, and this was not the greatest performance by their standards, but certainly Lucas Hernandez put in a performance that makes him deserve to be a starter lineup and for the next matches, for the next season as well. He should be, when Alaba and Boateng leave, or one of them leave at the very least, he should slot in straight away into his place. And of course, with the return of Sola, that's going to be adding a little bit more pace to the defense, a little bit more, I think, solidity to the back, really, for Lucas Hernandez is really, really good in the one-on-ones. I think Boateng also had a good game, really. I'm not going to be discrediting the players. But overall, I think the biggest point that let Bayern down was the fact that they didn't have a proper bench, didn't have a lot of players to rely upon. Normally you would have probably Goretzka, in a normal situation you would have, Koeman on the bench, you would have Sane on the bench as well, you would have Musiala on the bench, you would rely on Choupo-Moting coming on from the bench as well to sort of exploit the defence if Lewandowski was there, but unfortunately they weren't there, and Bayern were eliminated, and Bayern couldn't really do more than what they did in the first leg. That is the basic idea, I think, of it. They couldn't do more than what they did in the first leg. They tried to replicate what they did in the first leg, but it wasn't with the same intensity, and PSG had a better game overall than the first leg as well. They had more chances, they had the most dangerous of chances, but definitely Bayern, I thought over two legs were the better side. But again, just like I said in the review, not being the better side doesn't really guarantee you to go through, and it doesn't serve you any purpose if you are not efficient in front of the net, and if you're not scoring goals, you will not qualify. That is as simple as that. Now, of course, I think the future for Bayern now, and the situation should be focusing on the problems that they have with Hansi Flick. Is he leaving? Is he not leaving? The reports are so conflicting. Of course, hopefully on Saturday's episode, we're going to be talking about that in depth, really, with the problems of Hansi Flick. Is he leaving? Is he not leaving? Situation with Salihamidzic. Are they going to be bringing Julian Nagelsmann? The reports are suggesting so, and it looks like Hansi Flick, for all intents and purposes, he's not going to be the coach of Bayern for the next season, and he will be leaving to coach the German national team after Joachim Löw leaves after the Euros. So, let's turn our attention to PSG now as well. Given the credit for the winning team, they played a great game. Definitely a better game than the first leg. They pressed, they had the opportunities, they had the chances of the first half. They could have easily killed the game in the first half, really, but missing chances. The finishing was missing from PSG today, but again, give them credit. They managed the game really well. The presence of Leandro Paredes made so much difference today, because he's one of the players who could take the ball out of the pressure very calmly, very smoothly, and he did it today. With Verratti, and if Verratti was there, it would have been also more different. It would have been a little bit easier for PSG to transition from attack to defence, or from defence to attack, or vice versa. But certainly, PSG deserved to qualify over the two legs. They took advantage of the counter-attacking system that they had. They took advantage of Bayern's defensive mistakes. And, Bayern killed themselves. That's all I could say. And PSG deserved to qualify to the next round. That's a big money match waiting for them in the semi-final, potentially, if they're going to be playing Manchester City in the semi-final. The second game of that semi-final wasn't exactly as entertaining as the first one. Chelsea vs Porto. It ended with a late goal from Mehdi Taremi, by the way, a beautiful scissors kick, and a goal that is, I think it is more beautiful than Ronaldo's a kick against Juventus. And I think if you don't accept it, really, you just have a complex of Cristiano Ronaldo. You just have a complex of feeling that Ronaldo always does things better than people, because the goal was brilliant. The overhead kick, from an angle, really, it was hard. It completely took Mendy by surprise. Porto were victorious, and I think that is their best they could do with a 2-0 lead that Chelsea have in the first leg. I mean, the aggregate is 2-1, so it's not exactly that bad. For Porto, they went out, I think, in a blaze of glory, but the only thing I'm going to blame Conceição for is not going for the jugular, because the game was played at the first gear, played at a stalemate almost. Porto looked happy with the 0-0. They knew that they're going out anyway, and it looked like they accepted their fate. They accepted the fact that Chelsea were the better side of the first leg. They took the advantage 2-0, not exactly by being the most dominant, but being the most efficient and by taking the chances that they have, while Porto, I think, missed also a bucket load of chances in the first half. Chelsea managed the game, made the rotations, changed their squad as usual. Tommy Tuchel is always going to do that. But again, I mean, there are problems. Somehow, with all the good things about Tuchel's Chelsea, there's still loads of problems that he needs to work on. And I think number one of those is the finishing. Mason Mount and Ben Chilwell, your scorers in the game against Porto. And yes, you could say in the victory against Crystal Palace, Kai Havertz scores and Pulisic scored twice, all of that, but come on. You don't have a proper striker. And if you don't have a proper striker, eventually you're going to have problems in scoring, because eventually, you're not going to have a focal point to play on at certain points to open the game for you. I mean, you have Giroud. Why don't you use him more anyway? I mean, Giroud sort of became on the fringes since the introduction of Tommy Tuchel to the side. He played a couple of first games, and then it was Timo Werner, Kai Havertz, Tammy Abraham, the rotation between those two. And, of course, he was clear that he will do more rotation as the time wears on. But he doesn't have a striker, and it will be a consistent problem, I think, for Chelsea if they don't, if they don't find a striker, if they don't find an efficiency enough. The potential game that they're going to be against them in the semi-final is Real Madrid. Accordingly, at the very least, at the moment, it's Real Madrid. So if they play Real Madrid in the semis and they don't have an efficient striker or an efficient attacking organism, any chance they're going to have against Real Madrid is going to be missing. And if you're missing chances against Real Madrid, goodness me, how bad this could be for Real Madrid, and how bad this could be for Chelsea, to miss chances against Real Madrid, a side that's going to just eat you alive if you miss chances in front of them. So overall, the loss, I mean, they will take it. Chelsea would take it because they're qualified. But obviously, the problem of a striker is continuous. They need to, I think, maybe look out for a striker. I don't know. They will be spending more. Obviously, the reports are that Haaland is their prime transfer target. We will see how they're going to be doing it. The 180 million price tag is pretty high, but I think Roman Abramovich is willing to break the bank for someone like Erling Haaland. Overall, congratulations to Chelsea. They're quite the dark horses of the competition, and definitely, I think, deserving of of being called that. I mean, they had a decent season so far in the Champions League, and the semi-final looks like a really, really good result. Maybe semi-final of the Champions League, a top 4 is going to be a great achievement, but is Chelsea having that extra extra factor, an X factor that will help them go through to the final? I mean, potentially their opponents are Real Madrid, so it will be a very meticulous game, and Thomas Tuchel probably should really, really plan about what he's going to be doing in the semi-final then. But again, congratulations to Chelsea, and hopefully for them, they will find a solution for their striking problems. Turning our attentions now to Wednesday fixtures, of course, and the second pair of the quarterfinals. We're going to know tonight who's going to be the second, who's going to be the third and the fourth team to fill in the semi-finals. Who's going to face PSG from the Dortmund Man City game, and who's going to face Chelsea from the Liverpool versus Real Madrid game. And let's kick off, of course, from Liverpool versus Real Madrid. Now, on paper, this game looks, I think, done and dusted for most people. Most people realise, well, Liverpool have no chances whatsoever. They shot themselves in the foot in the first leg. They made too many defensive mistakes for their own doing. And, they didn't look like a compact unit, really. The midfield, who are supposed to be younger, more fresh than the Real Madrid midfield, didn't control the game, didn't have it in them to control the game. The start of Naby Keita over Thiago Alcantara is still to this day boggling my mind why he did it. Why he did start with Thiago Alcantara out and on the bench and started with Naby Keita in the starting lineup. Surely he would do the opposite today. Surely he's playing Thiago in the starting lineup because he needs some control in the midfield. And there's only one of two plans that's going to be working for Liverpool. They're going to be going either all out, all guns blazing, looking for the first goal, looking for an early goal to give them sort of a momentum heading into the rest of the game, because that is, I think, what happened against Barcelona. You get an early goal and then you just start, pressing, controlling the game, forcing the opponent's team into attacking to try and look for that killing goal anyway. But, the deficit is less than what they had against Barcelona. It's 3-1, 2 goals deficit. I think they could still turn it around, quite frankly. But in my opinion, it doesn't look that, it doesn't look that easy. Liverpool this season have been so inconsistent, so underwhelming at certain points that it is really hard to stand behind them and really hard to see them going through in any way, shape or form. The fullbacks made the mistakes in the first leg. Trent Alexander-Arnold had a horrific game. He made Vinicius Jr. look like prime Ronaldinho in there. And Vinicius Jr. isn't exactly that great, really. Again, Liverpool have been underwhelming over the whole season. And you don't expect them all of a sudden really to explode against Real Madrid and just have the best game they could have. They could do. They could do, really. They still have the personnel to do it. At the moment, with the top four hopes, not saying shrinking, but getting slimmer and slimmer despite the later form for them in the league, having 4 wins on the spin, it doesn't really spell a great deal when you have, most people not having faith in you. And Liverpool certainly, if they lose their faith in themselves, that's where things get bad, because the fans surely are going to believe that they can do it. Surely believe that they can make the comeback. Surely believe that they can do it. And Liverpool can do it, but it will need the stars to align again for them to do it. And an empty Anfield, they will need a collapsing Real Madrid, really. They will need a side in Real Madrid that will not do anything. They will need a side that, they will need a tired Real Madrid. That's it, because the last 2 games for Real Madrid, the first leg against Liverpool and then the Clásico in the weekend, certainly took a lot of Real Madrid. How they're going to regenerate their fitness is unknown, but certainly it took a lot out of Real Madrid. And it took a lot of them in terms of injuries as well. Lucas Vázquez, of course, is going to be missing the rest of the season. Is Carvajal available? We don't know. Probably they're going to be starting with Odriozola. Maybe he will go to 3 at the back. With Odriozola as the wing back. Maybe he will change. We don't know Zinedine Zidane what he's going to be doing. Definitely it will be an interesting situation for them. And then you have, of course, again, that midfield who, for some reason, they are becoming even better as the season goes on. Kroos, Modric and Casemiro, and especially Kroos and Modric, are really turning things around quite well for Real Madrid. They're really surprising a lot of people, certainly me considered, surprised. Kroos and Modric, with the performances that they're putting, at least in controlling the pace, not exactly in running and making athletic stuff and tracking back, because let's face it, at their own age, they will not be able to do it anymore. But to control the pace of the game, to go forward, to make those transitions, they play off the movements of the forward players, and Vinicius and Benzema, I think, are doing a really good job at it. And when Vinicius and Benzema move well, pretty strong, and move up pretty smart, Kroos and Modric eventually will find them because their quality of passing is just amazing. But again, how much El Clasico and the first game against Liverpool took out of Real Madrid's fitness. We almost said that about the first, we almost said that about the early games in the season where Real Madrid were pretty much threatened of going out of the Champions League, where they had Sevilla, Borussia Mönchengladbach, and then El Clasico, and ended up winning the three of them. They ended up winning all of the games, or Sevilla, Borussia Mönchengladbach, and then the Madrid derby, and ended up winning the three of them. And, ended up keeping clean sheets actually against the three of them until Atletico Madrid scored later on in their derby. So definitely, Real Madrid know how to manage these kind of situations, but it just have to ask, is it too much? Was the Clasico a little bit too intense for their own liking? Because Real Madrid were hanging on by the end. They were really hanging on to a thread in the last 5 to 10 to 15 minutes as well, where Barcelona really upped the ante, upped their pressure, and looked, all set really for an equaliser later on from Alex Moriba, at least, who hit the crossbar late in the Clasico. And it looked like Real Madrid would be dropping points in El Clasico and would head into Liverpool's game with some shattered morale. But it didn't happen, and, Real Madrid won El Clasico, and they're heading towards this game with, batteries charged pretty much. But again, it will always remain a question, what is the version we're going to get of Real Madrid? We're going to get the tired version? Are we going to get a fit and active version on the pitch? It's all about that, really, for Real Madrid. For Liverpool, again, the approach of the game, it should be one of two things. It's either going all out or just caving in and not allowing Real Madrid to score against them and try to pick them on the counter with the speed of the attackers, depending on who's going to be the front three playing. But it looks like Liverpool are going to have to go all out, because if they let Real Madrid control the ball and control the game, that is game done and dusted, because Kroos and Modric are willing to make transitions for days in the middle of the park. They will make long passes for days. They'll try and find those spaces behind. And the centre halves in particular, I think they're so inexperienced that someone like Karim Benzema, of course, with his experience and his IQ on the pitch, is going to make them move. Is going to make them run behind the ball. Is going to make them, is going to pull them out of their positions and allow runners from the midfield. If you have Asensio, if you have Valverde available, we don't know. If you have Casemiro coming in to run, and if you have, maybe someone like Ferland Mendy supporting again. So it depends on really two things, I think. Sum it up. The two factors are Liverpool's game plan and Real Madrid's fitness. Who's going to be the victorious game in this one? Who's going to be the victorious factor in this one? I don't see Liverpool going through. For all of their, for all of their qualities they still have, this season have been so underwhelming for them that I think even them look for this game as, we'll not have anything to lose. Let's go out of the Champions League. Let's just, think of it next season. Think what we're going to do next season. Should we buy defenders? How we're going to be improving our defense and all of that. And why we need to do something different next season to what we usually did. As for Real Madrid, out of nowhere they could pull a local upset, winning the league, and then you have a potential of winning a 14th Champions League in history. So it is quite incredible. The stars could be aligning for Real Madrid to win a 14th Champions League and be the winners of this season. Again, from out of nowhere, with critics really riding on their backs, early on in the season, and now all the praise for them for managing things around, all the praise for Zidane for managing things around tactically, and being really, really astute in the big occasions, particularly in El Clasico. When it matters, Zidane, I think, is the best coach in the world in those big games. He knows how to manage them. He knows how to get the best out of his players, to get the tactics right, to motivate his players to perform in the big games. And certainly, the players themselves have a lot of quality to apply it on the pitch. So overall, my prediction is, I would say, maybe something like a win that doesn't give Liverpool the qualification, but I would say Real Madrid may be able to finish the job in Liverpool. So I'm going for a surprise result. I'm going for a draw. I'm going for a 1-1 draw. And, Liverpool obviously are not going to be qualifying, unfortunately, for the semi-final. One would hope for a miracle, but it won't happen really. And rounding up, of course, we're going to be talking about Manchester City or Borussia Dortmund hosting Manchester City in their second leg. The first leg, I think, was underwhelming for Man City. This was a game, I think, where Man City didn't look the best they could. Certainly, the game against Leeds in the weekend, gave Dortmund a sort of a bit of hope. I think in making a comeback, sort of exploit the side, but obviously that was a rotated side, and even so, you expected Man City to have enough quality in them to beat Leeds United, even with a second side, because that second side, I mean, most teams would dream about a B team like that, where there is the likes of Fernandinho, when you have, Stones and Laporte, and you have Nathan Ake, and all of that, and you have, Fernandinho in the middle, who's still performing really well at his age. Then you have Bernardo Silva, and, Sterling and Jesus, and all of that. I mean, the squad that City have is just incredible. It's one of the best in Europe at the moment. And it looks a really great squad. What could potentially go wrong for them against Borussia Dortmund? I mean, unless Pep Guardiola manages to overthink it as usual, which I don't think he will, because I think he learned his lessons, I don't see Borussia Dortmund doing any sort of big thing. They will play it, I think, all out. They will play it with the mentality of, we're not losing anything, so why not risk it? They will risk it probably. City will cover them open maybe, and that's it. The game done and dusted for you. And I don't think that City in any way, shape or form are going to be bottling it. I mean, again, it's going to need an overthinking from Pep. It's going to need something, pretty weird from Pep to happen in order for Dortmund to make the comeback. I mean, maybe play De Bruyne as a winger as he usually does in those big games. I mean, obviously remember last season when he obviously over-respected Lyon and played three in the back and sort of made this weird formation where De Bruyne was a winger and nobody knew what to do at the moment, and Lyon just picked them apart. They're relying on the counter-attacks. In the second half in particular, they picked them apart truly and surely. And when it looked like Man City equalised in that game and were leading towards, just winning, it looked like, it looks for all intents and purposes that City are going to be winning and they're going to be going through, but somehow they were caught and they overexposed themselves in the back, of course, after missing that chance from Sterling, which people to this day, I think, still remember as quite something in that game. As for Dortmund themselves, they don't have anything to lose. Again, they don't have anything to really, regret in this game. They're going to be playing again all out, I would say, with the mentality of, you know what, we're not losing anything. Let's just play the game as it is. Let's just give it a good go. And, just try and win. Let's just try and win. That's what I think Dortmund are going to be thinking about. Try and win the game. Try and, play for the benefit of their abilities. Yes, their season have been underwhelming in the league, in the Bundesliga. They couldn't get into the top four quite easily this season. And it looks like they won't be getting there really anytime soon. They will try and play this as their last big game. And again, all these results are going to be affecting the team and affecting the way the team is looking to their season. Obviously, with Marco Rose coming in for next season, we'll see how the project is going to be starting. And again, it will affect a lot of players. Erling Haaland, mainly, is he going to be leaving the club if they don't make it to the Champions League? It looks a big possibility. But obviously, with the price tag set for him, not a lot of big teams are going to be going for him. Even Man City will probably be a little bit hesitant in going for him with that price tag. So with Dortmund, I think they need to defend really well, which I thought they did well for the first game. I thought between the first goal and the second goal was late, so yeah. But between the first goal and the second goal, I thought they defended really well. Again, the fact that they had a legit goal robbed out of them in the first leg for Jude Bellingham, and they had opportunities where they could have scored, they could have stung Man City, and if they took their chances, we could have talking about a different game altogether. I mean, Foden's late goal is probably going to be proven the difference between life and death, because at 1-1, Dortmund, all they have to do is just frustrate City. And, if we saw the game against Leeds United, I think one thing we learned is that City can be frustrated, can be denied the opportunity to go into the net, can be denied the opportunity to go into your box. And if Dortmund managed to do that, even for a big part, and have just one clinical chance that they could take advantage of, I think they will be able to make it. They'll be able to sting City. But that's not my prediction, by the way. This is not the way I see it. I think City will play, of course, their strongest team, and they will have the opportunity to just kill off the game. I think there is no doubt in my mind that City are going to be doing it. There's no problems in my mind. There's no doubt, really, that Guardiola is going to play it right this time and just going to get City over the line and give us that semi-final that I think is going to just have money, flowing all around it, with Man City playing against PSG in that semi-final. Of course, it's going to deprive us from a semi-final I wanted to see last season. I want to see this season in Bayern versus Man City. So definitely, Man City versus PSG looks like a pretty good consolation prize. Anyway, with that, obviously, my prediction is Man City, but definitely the door of miracles is still a bit open for Borussia Dortmund, and they still have the chance if they play their cards right, if they defend right and attack at the right times and pick up their moments really well in front of the net of Edison. That's it for this episode, of course. I was your boy, the HOD, the PSP. Like, share, comment on this YouTube version of the podcast, of course. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, enable notifications to receive all the updates from these episodes of the podcast. Listen to those on Spotify, Good Podcast, or any other platform. Follow us on social media. Side PSP on Twitter, Pitch, on Instagram. And until tonight, of course, where I see with the review of Liverpool versus Real Madrid, I will be seeing you soon. Goodbye.